let's be real. Parenting is going to throw us some curveballs, and not just some. It's pretty much every single day. But here's one we don't always think of until it's too late, and that's our kids' teeth. And yep, it's their smiles as well. From baby teeth to braces, cavities to confidence. How much do you know about teeth, and how well are we guiding our kids into this dental journey? And today, we're going to take the guesswork out of it. And if you know anything about dentistry, if you know anything about teeth, one of the number one markers for health is actually, believe it or not, it's in our mouth. Dr. Robert, I'm so happy to have you here. I've got this 9-year-old right now, and I think he's like doing the sneaky thing where like, oh yeah, I brushed my teeth. Your breath smells terrible. Yeah, but I did. Did you actually use toothpaste? I'm not really sure. So it's like, it's like chasing this kid down. And I'll admit, like, luckily my kids have got pretty good teeth, but I think I share in this crucible that most parents have of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to micromanage this thing. But I want to start out with you, man. First of all, twins.
Yeah, that's first couple of years were tough. Well, first, Larry, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Formerly Robert, but I've transitioned to Bobby. So, yeah, twins was. Can you edit a dog?
It's a dad show. There's supposed to be kids and dogs, and I've had chickens on the show a couple of times too, where I had to stop my guest, and be like, "Was that a chicken?"
That's a good one. Yeah. So 8-year-old twins. That in 2017, those were some blurry times for me. And both my wife and I were children. So for us to right away have twins, we had a dog, the same dog that just barked. So we were in it. But we like efficiency, so we did boy girl, and and we've been good ever since. But we always say, like, once in a while when we only have one kid with us, man, it's so easy. It's great. But hey, that's a whole separate podcast topic: how to handle twins and giving them the appropriate attention and not comparing them to each other and all that stuff.
I can't. I mean, I have 4 boys, and so we kind of have like the bigs and the littles. But it's I mean, we have good friends of ours that actually their twins now are 12, but we joked with them because like for the first 2 years we didn't see them. They didn't really come out of the house. But I really want to start with this story behind the Tooth Bible. So this was a cool COVID project for you, right? But I want you to give us some detail around that.
Yeah. So in 2020, so March 16th, 2020, we closed down our orthodontic office, which is obviously a huge deal. The world stopped, and we didn't know how long we were going to be closed for. And I've never really been good at sitting still. Generally, always doing something. So I gotta do something with my time. And one of the biggest benefits of that 8-week break of my life was, being isolated. But I spent a ton of time with my kids, which is awesome. It hasn't happened to that extent since. But I more or less said, all right, well, what can I do that will kind of still be part of my career and be something that can help people. I've always had in the back of my head, or on my shelf in my somewhere here on one of these shelves, is actually my grandfather's book. My grandfather was a neurosurgeon in the former Soviet Union. So he wrote or created a neuro atlas. And if you don't know what that is, it's more or less an anatomy textbook, but of the brain and the spine. And it was specifically of surgical techniques. I've never met this grandfather. He passed before I was born. But I've certainly heard all about him, and I have this book, and it's kind of like my, keepsake of him. So certainly I could make a dental anatomy textbook, but that's kind of boring. So I was like, all right, well, what can I do that kind of has something to do with that? So let's write a book. I've had a few books that kind of stuck out to me. I've read a lot of dental books over the years, as you would imagine. There was one book called $1 Million Smile, which is an old book by a cosmetic dentist in LA. But the good thing about that book, or the special thing about that book, I actually read it while I was in undergrad, so before dental school. It allowed people it was very layman's terms, a lot of pictures, not a lot of dental words, and it just allowed people to understand what a beautiful smile looks like and the differences between people's smiles, why you might like one smile than another. And then when we had our kids, we read, I didn't read that many kids or parenting books. I probably should have. But one of the most famous ones is What to Expect When You're Expecting.
Oh, yeah.
Right? course. So that's an older book too, and that's actually a very dense book. And I'm like, all right, well, you know what? I kind of want to combine these two books together. And what to expect when expecting kind of ends, right? It's chronological, but it stops, right? But with teeth, well, you got to keep going for a while. So the book is separated into chapters. It's, why is a smile important? Pregnancy, then the beginning 0 to 3. And each chapter is a couple years. And that way you'll kind of read what chapter is important to you, right? Because maybe if you have a 6-year old or an 8-year old or a 12-year old, or you want to read about braces, maybe you're less concerned about the baby phase. Or in reverse, if you're just pregnant and you want to, start to learn about like what's going on with the teeth at that time or preparing for the future, maybe you don't have to worry about braces, but you can read about the chapters about pregnancy and 0 to 3 and things like that.
What should we be? Can I say we even more in a question? What should we be looking out for 0 to 3 with teeth? I remember when my kids were little, and I was like, I remember that was one of the especially with my oldest. I'm like, do we brush their gums? Like, what do we do?
I
What should we be doing?
exactly. That first tooth comes in, you're like, huh, am I supposed to brush this thing?
Brush the one.
So, yeah, so pretty much as soon as the tooth comes in, you don't need to brush the teeth until there's teeth. That's the first part. That first tooth comes in, you should be cleaning the tooth. So a tooth is susceptible to a cavity. I mean, not like the day it comes in, right? But like technically it is, right? Everything takes time. But in the beginning, you want to just be brushing with, a little, whether just even a washcloth, like a wet washcloth, or a very, very soft bristle toothbrush. Sometimes you don't even need to put any toothpaste on there. You want to do as little as possible in those early ages. There's something called a schmear. If you imagine like smearing cream cheese or butter on a piece of bread. So it's like the thinnest layer possible on the toothpaste, because inevitably the baby, toddler, they're going to swallow it, right? They can't, right? So you don't necessarily want to expose them to like a ton of fluoride, but you want to have enough on there that is actually having a benefit. So in that very young age group, it's as little, it's called the schmear, but like I more or less say like as little toothpaste as you can get on there, use that, and then wipe their teeth clean with a wet washcloth afterwards.
Okay. So can I ask a question about the fluoride thing? Which I'm
Uh,
sure you're asked this all the time, right? But um, what is the jury's verdict on fluoride and overall health? And I know obviously it's a great preventative thing that we need for our teeth, but I also know that too much of it's not good for the other systems in the body. What is your take on that?
So my take hasn't changed with all the recent hoopla, because even back then, let's say when did it get more popular to discuss this? Probably maybe in the past year and a half or 2 years, whatever it's been. But even back then, there was the specific dosage that is recommended, right? And if the verdict was is if you have too little fluoride, you're at a high risk for cavities, right? It's preventative, as you mentioned. If you have too much, there's side effects that occur of that. If you can get white spots, it's called fluorosis, right? There's been some other relationships that have been discussed, which I think still need more research to really make the proper association correlation. But the long and short of it is fluoride at the appropriate dosage, which is zero point 0.6 parts per million, is appropriate to have in water, right? Because that's really what we're talking about is fluoridated water. Fluoridated toothpaste, with the presumption that you're going to spit it out and not swallow all of it, is like, to me, automatic. Fluoride needs to be in the toothpaste. You're strengthening your teeth. I mean, it's like when the conversation goes, should it be in the drinking water? I understand that sometimes there could be too much fluoride in the water, right? And that can potentially cause issues. But fluoride in toothpaste, however, that to me is automatic. There's not even a discussion about that.
Okay. Well,
Just
so go ahead,
for And can I just add one more comment
please.
that this has unfortunately become slightly political, and fluoride has no party affiliation. It's
Okay.
good for everyone in the right dosage.
Got it. Okay. So, um, are we misinformed then with fluoride?
I don't know if you're misinformed. I think you have to listen to the scientists, right? The people who have all the data. Like a lot of research, unfortunately, statistics can be manipulated in many ways, right? I think the best person or the best people, excuse me, to have these conversations with, are not on any social media platform, right? It's the local dentist, right? Because they are the one that knows the area. Because Connecticut, New Jersey, anywhere in the country, Midwest, like not every state is different, but even within states, there's difference, right? Like in my town, part of the town is on city water and the other part of the town is on well water. So some people have fluoride in their water from the city and some people don't. And they may go to the same dentist, right? And this is another important fact. How much fluoride is currently in your water, right? Probably don't know. Most people don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Why would you know?
Yeah.
Uh, so I think, especially for someone who's listening, who's maybe starting to plan for a family, that's an important thing to know. Some of the times when you get excess fluoride, it's when you have fluoride in the water. But what some people don't realize is that a lot of formula, baby formula, may also have fluoride in it. And then when you add the two together, maybe then you have too much fluoride, right? So the easiest way to find out, there's kind of two ways to find out how much fluoride you have. If you're on a well, which a lot of people are, then you just got to send a water sample into a water testing company and they'll tell you how many parts per million you have. If you're not in the well and you're on the city water or someone else or whoever provides the water, go to their website. And somewhere in there, they have all of the list of minerals and stuff that's in the water. And you have to make the presumption that it is at least accurate.
Got it. Okay. Very well. I mean, I got to tell you, that's about 30 years of curiosity that was just absolutely successfully like fulfilled. So thank you for that.
Glad I could help.
I still have to this day. I mean, I still use like the same toothpaste with fluoride in it. So it hasn't changed what I do, but I'm all like, when I have been brushing my teeth or like when my kids are brushing their teeth, I'm like, am I hurting them? Am I harming them by getting this? Like, but then again, like there's that battle of like, well, I also know that fluoride is really important for teeth health. Um, you know, I am curious though. You wrote the book in a Q&A form, and I kind of smiled when I saw that, and I was like, I wonder if it's because like us patients, when we go to dentists, we just hammer you guys with questions, right? It's like it's not really a conversation so much; it's us asking you 20 questions when we're in the chair, right? So is that why you wrote it that way?
Yeah, I remember this so well. It was like probably February, the month before COVID happened, and it was like three consults in a row. So we have what's called a treatment coordinator. It's one of my staff members who more or less sits next to me and helps review things with the patient. And three patients came in, maybe like one every hour, and they had the exact same question. And on the third time, I just looked and I giggled because it was funny. I was like, wow. And I said to my treatment coordinator, would you like to answer that question? Because you heard me answer it exactly a couple times in a row. And then there was a joke, we should write these down. And then that's it, right? I get asked the similar questions all the time. And it's like, well, if, it's like, remember in class when like you're kind of afraid to ask your question because you think it's a dumb question.
100%.
In reality, if you have the question, somebody else has the question, right? So all these questions I get asked, somebody else has the same question. Someone on the other side of the country has the same question. So that's the whole point of the Q&A. It's like, all right, well, let me go through this. It also makes it so much easier to read because if you want to skip over a question, great, skip it over. And it's finite, right? It's like, okay, this is 2 paragraphs. I tried really hard. And by there's a co-author, Mike Sultan. So we tried really to take somewhat of a dry topic and make it interesting, make it readable, make it sometimes funny, and to not make it too sciencey, right? Because how long can you talk about teeth for, right? So we have to make it readable. So that was the mission, and I think we did a pretty decent job at that.
Yeah, so let's go over some of the really common questions. I mean, so a kid comes and sits in the chair, the parent comes up to you. What can you bank their first 3 questions are most likely going to be?
All right. So one question I get asked a lot is, I'm afraid to get braces. Are they going to hurt? Right. That is a regular question. And the way I treat my patients, and maybe this is from not having a lot of like siblings or cousins, I will treat a 9-year-old almost like an adult. Like I treat them like we're equal. right? I'm not talking. I never had kid voice with any of my own children. Never in the office. No baby voice. Nothing like that. And I think it worked for me because then they're responding in like a normal fashion, and they can kind of. I think we have a good rapport that way. So I say braces when I put them on, 100% will not hurt. You're gonna walk out being like, that was it. But then there's the day after. And then the day after, you're gonna be a little sore. But mom or dad's gonna give you a little bit of medication, and then you're gonna be fine. It's no big deal, you know. And then we have many testimonials and pictures of people who have all done it and gone through it and say, hey, it's no big deal. So I think that kind of like highlights that answer really highlights dentistry in one part is that when kids see that other kids have done something and they're not complaining about it or they know it didn't hurt, that allows for them to feel so much more comfortable. And on the same token, I'm going to go on a little monologue. Sorry. It's so important that parents don't go in there and say, "Oh my God, braces were so hard." I had braces on for 5 years. Is my kid going to have braces on for 5 years? Well, hey parent, let's not project your problems onto your kid. Let's maybe rephrase that. Hey, my treatment was really long. Have there been some technological advances where I want to make sure that my kid's treatment is different than mine, right? So it's about how we frame that question. Parents, I say, I'm going to straighten your kid's teeth, but it's a team, right? It's not just me. It's how well your kid is complying with whatever we ask them to do. It's how well the parents help to remind and, hey, bring them to the appointments on time and not forget there's an appointment, or remind them that there's rubber bands to wear, or whatever the part is that they're going to play a role. But it's certainly a team effort. It's not a one person job.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking of another question that gets asked often. Um, I'm going to pose a question that I ask often, actually, because I think it's one that makes people think about their diet. So I get asked, what can't I eat with braces, right? Because there's the foods list and the obvious things, Jolly Ranchers, lollipop, popcorn, right? But then I kind of, usually we create a conversation about this topic. And then, usually, and hopefully with a parent in the room too. Um, hey, so what do you think's actually worse for your teeth? Eating a whole bag of chocolates quickly, maybe in 30 seconds or a minute, or having, 4 or 5 M&Ms over the course of an hour.
I would say the M&Ms, right?
So, yep, it having good job. It's about the duration, right? Uh, yes, the sugar is obviously bad for you, and I should quote specifically about teeth here, right? The rest of the digestive tract and diet, we can talk about that separately. But we don't want sugar sitting in teeth for a long period of time, right? So snacking, right? This is where we're going with this, right? If you want to have your dessert, eat it, rinse your mouth, brush your teeth, good. But the worst thing is like slowly and over an hour, just nibbling on something sugary, especially because then it's hanging out in your mouth for a while, and natural saliva, hasn't had a chance to actually work and protect the teeth.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so duration actually plays the biggest part in tooth decay and sugar. Wow. Okay. So that gives me an excuse to eat like 7 brownies all at once then, and just not eat
Right.
over an hour. So
That's right. Excuse me, I have to finish my brownies. The doc said I got to do it quickly.
that's right. I got to eat this whole bag of M&Ms in 10 seconds because like just the sugar can't stay in my mouth. I love that though. As far as you know, I get so that braces, like I just a quick comment on that. I had braces as a kid too, and I'll tell you, like my kids have asked me, like, do they hurt? And I'm like, no, it doesn't hurt. And they're like, how does it not hurt? It looks medieval. I was like, it does. And somehow I have no idea. They super glue like metal to your mouth and put wires in it. But yeah, it doesn't really hurt. It's a little sore the next few days, but that's really about it. I have no idea how that's even scientifically possible. How braces can go on teeth like that, not hurt, and then you can take them off, and it looks like they were never there.
Well,
Wild to me. Like, how is that? I am actually just curious. I know this may or may not be in your book, but how is that possible?
I would say that's actually not super covered in the book. Well, some of it is, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with what braces used to be.
Yeah.
So braces used to be big and bulky, and the material and the wire. Okay, so braces are what's glued onto your teeth, the little metal bracket, right? And each tooth gets a bracket. Um, there's a wire that goes across, and actually the wire is what grabs the tooth. So it's actually the wire that's actually moving the tooth, and the bracket is our gripping point. Now, there is a wire bracket interaction that helps to change the angles of the teeth and things like that. But those are the two components: wire, bracket, or braces is plural and bracket is individual. So back in the day, the braces were big, and the wires were all made of stainless steel, and pretty much only stainless steel. Stainless steel is rigid, right? It's strong. And what we learned was put the biggest wire you can in there, and that you're not going to break the braces, and then move the teeth. Well, it worked. Teeth moved, but it hurt a lot. It hurt a lot, right? And then technology, caught up, right? So first the braces got smaller, and the adhesion system that holds the braces on improved. And with that, they didn't have to be so bulky, so they just aesthetically look better. There was some very big innovation with the little lines inside the braces, which actually allows the teeth to move in very particular angles. So, for example, if this is a tooth, you can make the brace so that the tooth doesn't sit like this, it sits like this, which is very important because we want certain teeth to be at certain angles. That was like a 2-degree turn if you couldn't see what I was doing with my hand there. And probably the biggest innovation is something called nickel titanium wires. So nickel titanium is a metal, and I believe it came out of NASA. It was kind of a technology borrowed from the space industry. And it's just, instead of stainless steel, it's a different metal, and it is a memory wire. So you can take this wire and tie it in a knot, put it down on the table, and you'll see it slowly going back to that natural arch form that's meant to be. But think about some kid that has teeth in all different directions. So you put your braces on wherever they need to be in the center of the tooth, and you put this wire in that looks all crazy and going in all different directions, and very slowly, over the period of weeks, the teeth start to move. But that force that's applied to the tooth, unlike the stainless steel wire, is a very low force. And what eventually science taught us is that teeth actually move more efficiently, with a low force than they do with a high force. And it also feels better. It doesn't hurt as much. So that combination was like huge, right? All of a sudden, it just didn't hurt as much anymore, and they were more efficient and they were faster. It's like spectacular.
I want braces now, and not when I had them in 8th grade, like 35 years ago.
So, sure. No. Yeah, I think everyone does. Yeah, things have certainly changed in the orthodontic industry. And then there's also aligners. So like you've heard of Invisalign probably, right?
Yeah.
So they technically move the teeth like slightly differently. There's no wires and braces, but there's a force that's applied, right? You're switching your aligners every week, right? So you're getting just this light force every week, and it's also super efficient and not very painful. So everything in the orthodontic world has gotten better over the years.
I had to be that guy that, so like when I got my braces, and I think I was 14. So yeah, like 35 years ago, right? And I remember and maybe it was selective hearing, but I don't remember my orthodontist telling me that I'd have to wear my retainer for life. I think it was like, you have to wear this for a couple of years. I'm like, okay. So I did. And then into my adult life, like I noticed, I was like, are my teeth moving? It's kind of weird. My teeth are moving. And then I think it was like 15 years ago, I went back to the exact same orthodontist that treated me in 8th grade. And I'm like, hey, are my teeth moving? He's like, yep. I was like, okay. I was like, well, give me some of those Invisalign things. And so like I did like I think it was 4 to 6 months or something like that of Invisalign. My teeth went right back. It was fine. But I am curious though. Can you talk to us a little bit about there's 2 questions here. I really want to know about, how does the health of your teeth impact your overall health? Because I know there's a lot there. And then the other question that I have is, for all the dads out there, and there's a lot of moms who listen to this show too. Like, I know every kid is individually and uniquely made, and they're individually and uniquely motivated differently. But I would be so curious if you could give us like, hey, if you really want to motivate your kid to take care of your teeth, it's either addressing some of this information with them, asking maybe these questions with them, or telling them this. I don't know what that is, but like one thing I've noticed, I have 4 boys and my oldest is 19. I have never found that magical thing that they suddenly are like, oh God, you're right. I need to brush my teeth every day. And it becomes like an urgent thing. I haven't figured that out. So, but I'd love to tackle the first one first, which is what part does oral health and oral hygiene have to do with overall health?
Yeah, totally important and appropriate question. The mouth is the entry point to the body, right? That is into our digestive tract, right? And in the airway too. So there's so many studies to show that. So the first step of not having healthy teeth or gums is gingivitis and cavities, right? Those are the kind of the two things. Your gums are puffy, they're inflamed, the bacteria change your mouth, you bleed very easily if you floss, or if you never floss and you do it for the first time, right? That's usually gingivitis. And then cavities, we know, are pretty much bacteria that live on the teeth, that create acid and create a hole in your mouth and, in your tooth. And it's breaking enamel down over a period of time. So that's like the first negative step. As things get worse, those cavities get bigger, and then gingivitis eventually can become periodontitis, which is where all those bacteria go further down into your gums, and you have bone loss, and you have issues and bigger issues pretty much associated with that. Those diseases have been associated with many heart conditions, right? So we know that everything, and diabetes, for example, right? And having a healthy mouth as the first entry point to the body, like psychologically, is it a big surprise that people with beautiful, healthy teeth tend to maybe be physically better, whether they're living longer, whether they're living healthier lives? Like usually the things are kind of correlated, right? No one's going to say like, if you have perfect teeth, you're going to live to 100. Of course not, right? But people who have good compliance with their mouth tend to have good compliance with other things. So I would say it's like habit building, right? That's probably the easiest way to say to an adult. And I think that most adults, and we're going to keep kids separate, understand this to be true. Whether they actually take good care of their teeth or not is a separate question. How to explain this to a kid? So first we have to separate it out into age groups. And I'll say as a general thing, it's like being a teacher. Certain students they're auditory learners, right? Some are visual learners, right? Some people, they have to just write it down over and over again. So it's no different with a kid, right? You have to figure out what's going to work for them when you're teaching them, right? And maybe it's a motivation, maybe it's showing them. And that's parenting, right? That's what we're all trying to figure out, and not only with teeth, but with life. With the younger kids, I think it's got to be making it fun. Making it fun means having them pick out their own toothbrush, for example, right? If you have not that there's anything wrong with a simple color toothbrush, but if they have their favorite, their favorite Power Ranger or whatever thing they're into, that might make it more fun for them. Having them choose the flavor of toothpaste. I think this is probably a big one at young age kids. Mint, like I love mint. I'm mint all day, but most kids, the little kids, don't like mint. So back in our day when we were kids, it was like mint or cinnamon, or that's probably it, right? You choose.
Mint or mint. There you go.
Right. But now you have like all these like crazy flavors, right? You have like oh my God, what is my son using? It's like it's not dragon's breath, but it's pretty close to dragon's breath. Dragon's breath sounds like it would be bad, but it's pretty neat, right? You have mermaid orange, right? All these different like fun toothpaste and of every possible flavor you can imagine. So we have like 3 toothpaste sitting there, and I let them pick. Yeah, am I paying a little more for it? Yes, but if it's going to motivate them at all, like why not?
Yeah.
Right? It's easy. In my 8-year-olds, so you mentioned your 9-year-old in the beginning, he was like, all right, did he actually brush his teeth? Was there any toothpaste on the brush? Right. So like, I think that's a pretty normal thing that all parents deal with. So I more or less tell them that, hey, you're in charge of brushing your teeth, taking care of your teeth. But I'm going to check every once in a while. Right. And granted, I know what I'm looking for. So I can go in there and show them if they missed a spot. That's pretty easy for me. But for the average parent, who may not be comfortable in someone else's mouth also, by the way, there are some tools that you can use to kind of teach your kids what spots they missed. There's more or less, they're called plaque disclosing tablets. So you more or less put it in your mouth and you can swish it around. They come in purple or blue, and you spit it out, and any spot where there's plaque, it'll turn purple. And you're like, oh, look at that.
Really? Where
You-
where do you get those at?
they're available all over. And on the toothbible.com website, there's something called a Smile Shop. So we have
There you go.
products. So one of them is plaque disclosing tablets.
I didn't know you had a shop. That's
Oh yeah,
awesome.
there's a Smile Shop on there. That's
Oh,
right.
we're putting that well, guys, it's already in the show notes. Go check out the shop. So, okay, cool. Like,
Yeah.
you know
Uh,
what's
two,
really you know what's really interesting too is I never actually thought, I mean, like in 20 years of being a parent, like having a variety right there on their sink. Like I've always been like we buy one toothpaste and then when you're out of that, we just go buy another one. But that is so simple and it makes it so much fun. And you're right. Like I even remember growing up and like I think I had like a He-Man and a G.I. Joe and like those,
yes.
those cool and it did like, oh, I get to brush my teeth with this thing. If you had like the blue toothbrush, you're like, not so fun.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of having twins, boy girl twins, where it's like our dinner plates, the kids' dinner plates. So like we eat relatively healthy. Let's pretend for one dinner it was, and they're better now, but this is a couple years ago. Chicken, broccoli, string beans, rice. Okay, so four
That's
items.
eat healthy for sure. That's
So
good.
we would look at their plates 10 minutes later, and half of their plate was completely gone and half of it was still there. But it was the exact opposite between the two of them. It doesn't matter what we're serving. It was always one would have one half and one would have the other half. And they weren't talking about it. It was just naturally, I mean, they might looking at each other, but it would happen all the time. They just, it's, it is
That
whether
is
it's,
so funny.
and it was without fail. And I remember so we had initially whatever toothpaste, right? And I think like, even though I'm an orthodontist, I went to go buy toothpaste for the kids, and I was like, I'm standing there. I'm like, which one do I get? Like a normal, like every other parent, right? I'm like, all right, well, let me try two, right? And I was like, all right, let's just see, because I don't know. I know that I have to get a flavor my kid's gonna like, but I'm like, I have no idea. Are they gonna like strawberry, bubblegum, whatever? So I got two, and of course, what happened? One liked one, and the other liked the other. That's how it started, right? And then when one ran out, the other one's like, I'm not using that one. No way, I don't like that flavor. And it's like, you have an option as a parent there. You either say, hey, I don't care. You brush with what we have, and you be thankful you have toothpaste, because once upon a time we didn't have toothpaste and your teeth are going to rot. Or you give in a little bit, but you pick your battles, right? Hey, my kid is willing to brush their teeth, and I will give you the toothpaste you want if you make sure you do a good job with it, right? If you go on, this surface, this surface, this surface, this surface, and then and then the trimming surface, and then on the inside, and don't forget to brush your tongue. So you make a deal, right? So it's the game of parenting that we all play. So I said, okay, I'll go get you another toothpaste. And then when they were a little old enough, when they're shopping, I try not to bring my kids to the grocery store because it's dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
But sometimes scheduling wise, you're like, all right, well, we got to get some stuff. So they go to the toothpaste aisle. They're like, can I try this one? And I like look at them, like, ask for it. And I'm like, all right, well, you want an actual choose your flavor? All right, why not? Let them, empower them, let them choose it. Next thing you know, we have like four of them. But whatever, they're brushing their teeth and they're doing a good job. So it's still a win.
That's really cool. That's really, really, that's a great idea. And it's like, that's one thing I love about this podcast and these tiny, tiny tweaks that you just don't even think about because you're such in the habit of doing the same thing for years. Even the way that we grew up, we didn't have, I don't know about you, but like my mom I did not have a variety of toothpaste to choose from on a daily basis. This is it. So, what about flossing? Like, how do we get our kids to do that? And by the way, let me just say this. And I don't know if this is maybe something you suggest, but one thing that I've noticed, you say make toothbrushing fun. My kids actually love brushing their teeth with me or with my wife. It's like they're like, so if I tell them at the end of the night, like, hey, it's time to brush teeth, they're like, will you brush your teeth with me? And normally I will because I'm like, well, I'm not eating anymore tonight and I need to brush my teeth anyway. So yeah,
Why not?
I find those are the most effective times when we brush and we have fun with it. Like we'll growl, we'll foam at the mouth, stuff like that, toothpaste hanging out everywhere, it's like, but it does make it, I think, more fun. And I have no idea when I'm not around, but if I'm a betting man, I would bet my kids do a much better job when they're right next to me versus
Of course, of course. Of course. Yeah. You know, you may have heard, I'm sure you've heard somewhere, you brush your teeth for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. So, brushing your teeth for 2 minutes is hard, like physically challenging for every human, I think. Right. So I say to my patients and to my kids, like, if you can keep your toothbrush in there and it's moving for 2 full minutes, you're probably doing something good. Right. So that's your challenge, right? Keep it in there for 2 minutes. And the way and this is not an exaggeration. When I'm brushing my teeth, I'm smiling big. I'm counting my teeth to make sure that I don't miss anything because I'm like, my mind's somewhere else. I'm not paying attention. So I'm going to the surface. I have 28 teeth, right? All right. Well, you get the front of every tooth, go around. Now you're going to do the chewing surfaces of every tooth. Then you got to get the backside, the inside of each tooth. And then the most important part, one of the most important parts, the tongue. Got to brush that tongue.
I have a
Yeah.
tongue scraper.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Yeah, so I brush it and
Still go too hard.
yeah. I'm I'm 50 years old. I've never had a cavity. I've never had any issues like that. But like I have like literally kind of anal about it. Like I follow this process. So I floss, then I brush, then I scrub my tongue, scrape my tongue, then I use Listerine, and then I use Colossus. I think I said that right, right? I don't know. I like the feeling of a clean mouth. It's just I probably do I overkill it, but like I like the feeling of a clean mouth.
Like this is like how the show started. It was like you have to be a good example for your kids in dental, right? Even if you may not have the perfect teeth, like that's perfect. And you do that with your kid. If your kid wants to do that with you after seeing you do that, you're building a kid with a great mouth moving forward. So well done.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The thing that I haven't figured out going back to the flossing thing, and
Yeah.
I love the fact that you even started out with braces because a lot of guys, listening to the show, the kids are little, they might be right at the age of braces, might be before. But here's one thing I have not figured out how to do well. So when I'm flossing like with my 9-year-old, and he's like, my teeth aren't straight like yours because his teeth are a mess right now because they're just coming in and he's gonna need braces. So he's like, how do I do this? Like, what do I do? I'm like imitating like the pick, and that kind of thing. So like,
Yeah.
how should we be teaching our kids how to floss if their teeth are just all over?
So the first note about flossing is when do you start flossing? So it's recommended to start flossing when two teeth are touching. So with baby teeth, and everyone's mouth is different, but the average kid with their baby teeth coming in, like they don't actually touch. There's spaces between them, right? So if there's a gap between your teeth, you can't really do much there from a flossing perspective. But eventually, the teeth will touch. And some people, they touch earlier, depending on how crowded they're going to be when they're older. So the sooner in life your teeth touch, that's an indication of what's to come later on as we get older. And when the 6-year molars come in, which is usually, as we would guess, around age 6, almost always we have some contact in the back, and that's a permanent tooth. So we want to be flossing that tooth especially. So flossing is a dexterity battle, right? Because you have to, tie it around your finger and go like this. And I think at that age, with my kids, I haven't truly even tried to have them floss that way. I use platypus flossers. So there's like a little floss, like a little stick thing, and it's got a little animal design. There's different colors, and there's a little floss that's connected to it, and they are disposable. I mean, when you buy them in bulk, they're like 7 or 8 cents each. Like it's very inexpensive. And there's a lot of different companies. The platypus ones are my personal favorite.
Do you have
Also,
them in your shop?
FES, of course, I do. Uh, yeah. So at the end of the day, it's like flossing. Flossing is not fun. It does not. It feels good to have those clean teeth. So afterwards, it's good. But getting a kid to like enjoy flossing, and it's like that's not that. If you can do that, then you are the best dad, parent, psychologist, dentist ever. So my answer is the same as it is with brushing, right? Find ways to make the tools easier because if it's difficult dexterity wise to do it, which for a 6-year-old it is 100%, and if they're really good at it, you probably should have them start playing piano or something else where they're really good with their hands. So switching to a floss, any of those little floss picks, and there's many of them. They're all going to be useful. And then when the teeth are crooked, and it's just truly hard, right? Because that's the whole point of in part to straighten your teeth so you can actually have access to the teeth. It's much easier to floss two teeth that are touching each other and they're kind of parallel to each other. They're contact points. When they're overlapping, and many, especially in our lower front teeth, that's where a lot of people have crowding. We know that we've got that one spot. It's always harder to floss, or maybe I also get food stuck there, so I have to floss it more, but it's tougher. And the more overlapped it gets, the harder it is to floss. And it's a little bit of a battle. I would say those platypus flossers or any of those little guys do make it easier because again, it's a dexterity thing. It's like, how do I get my hands to get in there at this weird angle and then be able to push up and down or angle it at the same time?
Got it. Okay. I'm right after the end of the show. I'm going to your shop, and I'm going to buy some stuff. I'm not even kidding. I can't wait to go there because, especially like I said, my 9-year-old, he doesn't do the best job, and I think he just needs a little bit of excitement to do this. Before you and I hit record, obviously this is a show around the Tooth Bible and taking care of good teeth. But you said something before we hit record that I thought was really intriguing. And I thought was really good, and I can't help but not want to cover it. And it's a common theme that I think we've been really, really hitting in this particular episode, which is, what is, best lessons are caught, not taught, right? So how do we lead by example, right? If we are taking good care of our teeth, our kids are too. But I want to just zoom out from that a little bit more, and I want to go more broad. You're in a profession where you treat families, kids, and I'm sure you treat adults too, but you see a lot of different family dynamics, and you see, you are a leader in your practice, you're a leader in your business, you have to lead your team, you're a dad, you're a husband, you're leading your family, you're leading your own kids. So you kind of have this different view, I think, of not only your own leadership style and different things that you do, but you're exposed to several families, even on a daily basis, and some of the dynamics and the interactions. But from a leadership perspective, from an example perspective, where have you seen the best, I would say, results as far as like kids' camaraderie with their dads, or camaraderie being led by their dads in a way to where they want to do the things that dad is saying to do, right? Versus like, God, dad's driving me crazy. He's always telling me to do this, this, or this. So any context you could add to that, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, I think it starts by leading by example. I think it starts with taking care of yourself first. And that goes, one of the things that when we have a patient that's pregnant, as an example, we say like, hey, you have to take care of your own body because everything you do is now going to affect your kid, right? And we're talking about the mouth in particular. And going forward as the kids get older, if you aren't taking care of your own teeth, if you aren't setting an example, they're going to catch on. Like they're all smarter than we think they are, these kids, right? And they're like, well, you told me to brush for 2 minutes, but I just saw you over there. You were in and out of the bathroom in 10 seconds. So why would I do that if you're not doing that? And for the dad to say, oh, well, my teeth are too far gone, you have fresh teeth, that doesn't always work. That's a tough explanation. So I think the basic things are to lead by example, to show that you care without being like, without too much yelling, without too much nagging. It's the careful balance, right? Do my kids brush their teeth perfectly for 2 minutes every day? No, they don't. Of course not. But I'm aware of that, right? And I'm also kind of playing the game of, okay, I have to make sure that toothbrush is getting in there, if there's the right amount of toothpaste or close to it, and let them make mistakes, but not too much mistakes, right? So that's why I was mentioning maybe once a week I'm going in there and I'm more or less brushing, or like letting them brush, and then I'm brushing it again. I will say, and this trend I imagine is increasing, and it's a great trend. When I started practicing, I'd always say, okay, someone grab mom, let's talk to mom. And we're going to go over whatever the topic is for the day. The number of dads that come to appointments these days, it's more than ever before. It's awesome. And going with your kid to an appointment, whether it's a pediatrician appointment, dentist appointment, orthodontist appointment, whatever it is also showing your involvement. Is another form of bonding. And then those conversations, both before the appointment and after the appointment, are critical, mission critical, right? Because you want to, like, I have no problem being the bad guy, right? That's part of my job. That's part of what I'm paid to do, right? And it's the parents, like I say, granted, it's a team effort, right? It's not just me. I can't succeed alone. I need the reinforcement from the parent, and it's the parent's job to project good things to help me achieve the goal. And reviewing or sometimes even kind of translating it to the kid, or reinforcing it is probably the best way to put it. Super important, right? And it's all about that. It's the team effort. So be part of the team is my long-winded way of saying what a dad can do. And then as time goes on, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, hey, remember that time when you were at the orthodontist office and you wouldn't wear rubber bands, or the time where that's the day after Halloween where you had those like blue Jolly Ranchers and he made fun of you for your tongue being so blue? How ridiculous was that, right? So it's reminding ourselves of the good and bad times and learning from them.
I love that. I love that, man. Do you mind if we just open up the book on just you personally, just for a moment, just to okay.
Of course.
Um, Obviously, this is a dad-centered show. It's a man-centered show, a husband-centered show. You've been married for 12 years, right? And you got a twin boy and girl. That's no easy task, right? Leading a practice that was shut down back in 2020. Now back open again. So like over the past 8 years, it's been probably a bit of a roller coaster ride, right? And yet, you have a marriage and a family that has stayed intact throughout the whole thing. And I would just love to know, like, what are what is your North Star? Like some of your core values, some of the things that are most important and meaningful for you as you lead in marriage.
I think that having open lines of communication are key, right? Um, my wife is also in the dental field. She's a periodontist. So, in some ways that's amazing because we understand what each other is going through. In some ways that's tough because we both have similar high demanding fields. But communicating, I think it's just communication. It's the most important thing. Um, Probably my North Star is sometimes I might feel that I'm right. And you have to not be right. And you have to know when to push and when not to push. And I'm saying I'm still learning, as all of us are. I think every day is there's something to learn from every day, and time for reflection is key. Like we're just talking about remembering that time with the silly blue Jolly Rancher. So remembering in my family, remembering the first time we went skiing and the ridiculousness. And even though we might have been yelling at each other a little bit because everyone's falling over, it's cold, my back's hurting, what we gained from that experience. And this is the two and through thing is that a lot of like yourself and most families, you have one kid, a second kid, a third kid, whatever, and you learn from those experiences. And maybe you did something really well, so you do it again, or maybe you didn't do something so well, so you make a change for the second kid or for the third kid. We don't have that luxury. We're just going, and we're hoping to get everything right. And of course, we don't get everything right. And I think it's about us supporting each other. I have a very supportive wife. I have very good kids. I'm kind of just pretty lucky. I guess I can say, in part luck, but in part we work on it, right? And if I'm doing something wrong, she's going to let me know, right? Actually, let me share this. This morning, to my kid, my son has told me that he wants to write a book. Well, kind of makes sense. His dad wrote a book. Yeah. I'm like, all right, well, hey man, that was really tough. But okay, yeah, I'm gonna, let's see what happens, right? So he wants to write a fantasy novel, and he's into all these books, and he's a very good reader. So I'm like, okay, let's see what you got. I was like, all right, first thing you need to do is make a list of characters and almost write like little blurbs about them and give a background. So we started writing it, and of course it's the third grade writing, so it's it's not the most legible thing, and it doesn't all make sense, but whatever. And he's really excited about this project, and I know if we're actually gonna do this is a massive project to do it right. So this morning, actually it's been kind of 2 or 3 days of him being like, hey, can you help me do something with the book or something with this? And it's always been when I've been busy. And this morning, we're like 25 minutes from when the bus is coming, and they have their own pajamas. And he's like, hey, can you help me build a timeline for this character? And I'm like, no. Look, the bus is going to be here in 20 minutes. Like, absolutely not. And I
20 minutes to build the timeline that
out in the morning, we were behind schedule, and this is kind of the first time this has really happened. So it's actually like so appropriate that we have this podcast today. My daughter comes up to me 5 minutes later. She says, why are you so mean to Ian earlier? I was like, well, that she never says something like that to me. And she's like, yeah, you were really mean that you won't help him with the book. And I'm like, well, he's asking, he has his pajamas on, where, I'm all the logical reasons that an adult would say. It's a ridiculous time to be talking about your book that you just started working on that's going to take years to build. And he's like, yeah, but the way you said it, and you didn't tell him when you were going to help him. Yeah.
He said that?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, 8-year-old daughter.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, man.
So then I'm like calling my wife, and I'm like, all right, listen, we got to build into the schedule. I need 30 minutes or an hour with him, like isolated. I feel like the whole day I've been carrying this with me. And I was like, gosh, maybe I was really not nice. I need to be better. But like, listen, like this is like, I guess how to build this, how we're building this successful family, like open communication. I was wrong. I got called out by my 8-year-old, and I could have gone two ways. Hey, no, you're overreacting. Like he was so wrong. I was like, well, he was wrong. It was bad timing, but my reaction and how I took that was improper. So I'll make it up to him.
I love that, man. I love teaching humility and ownership with kids by doing it ourselves, because like, I mean, my two older ones, they're 17 and 19. And the cool thing I think about getting in reps like that, when you're just like, hey, you're 8 years old, but you got a point. Yeah, I could have handled that differently. Yeah, I need to do something about that. And here's what I'm going to do. Right. Because you raise humble kids who embrace ownership. Like there are things that we've called our kids forward on and out on. And their response is, yeah, you're right. No excuse. I didn't do that thing. That won't happen again. And you're just like, yeah, and you're waiting for the excuses. You're waiting for the there, and you're like, wow, I got nothing. Okay, great. Way to own it, right? Way to own it. Okay, awesome. So we're just going to hold you to what it is you just said you're going to do, which I love that. I do need to tell you, my 17-year-old wrote a book when he was 10, and it was about his experience in Little League football, when he was 8, and it's called Never Give Up No Matter What. So, he wrote the book, I helped him with it, and we hired the illustrator to do the rest of it, but it's a kid's book on basically not giving up. So yeah, man, it's like, it's such a cool project when you get to the finish line of something like that. Cause when your kid like can like literally like, I'll never forget when Mason like got his very first proof in the mail, and he was like, I can't believe my name's on this. Like, and he was 10. And, but it's such a cool feeling, and it's something that you never forget. And the cool thing about it too is that Ian will never forget who helped him with that project. Like,
right.
It's like even my 9-year-old and I were building the Marvel Tower, which is like 5,200 and something pieces of Legos. Mm-hmm. And it's taking us, at the end of all of it, it'll probably be like 22 hours of work. But like sitting next to each other side by side for that long interacting, man, I'll take, just same with you and Ian. It's like that side by side, and that 30 minutes to an hour of working on his book, man, he's going to remember like who helped me out with this project. And I have it for life. Like I wrote a book when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and Dad helped me with this book. Like, dude, that is so cool, man.
So that's something that'll never go away.
Never goes away. So cool, man. Well, I want to make sure that we point the audience in the direction where they can find you, the Tooth Bible. I know my first stop, no kidding around. As soon as I hang up with you, you're going to see a couple sales come through, because I'm going to buy some toothpaste, and I'm going to buy some of those flossing things. I'm going to look at some of the other goodies you have, and I can't wait to surprise my kid with some really cool stuff.
Good. It'll work. You'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, where can people find you besides thetoothbible.com?
Yeah, Instagram, brace_thyself, and author Dr. Bobby are probably the easiest ways via Instagram. Thetoothbible.com, there's also, if anyone has any questions, there's a contact option through there. So I will respond to that. Yeah, it's been really, really fun. I've loved our conversation. I love your podcast. You're doing a great job, and I think every dad should certainly listen to this.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So is it okay if are we on a first name basis? I can call you Bobby now. That's all you have to Robert, or okay, good. Very good. Well, guys, you won't have to look far for everything that we mentioned in today's podcast. All you have to do is head on over to thedadedge.com/1396 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/1396. We'll have Bobby's Instagram handle, his social media, and also thetoothbible.com, and make sure you check out his shop like I'm doing as soon as we adjourn this show. So you won't be sorry. But Bobby, thank you so much for coming on today, man. Like this was, I wish I would have talked to you like 20 years ago. I'm not even kidding. I would have saved myself. Like, I don't know how to get my kids to do, like, I can get them to do other things, but brushing their teeth, it's like, man, like, I don't know why that's such a heavy lift, but it has been. So, but thank you for your advice.
Oh, thanks, Larry. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Gentlemen, like I said, head on over to thedadedge.com/1396 for the show. Go out. Live legendary. Take care.